Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Airspeed Reads Naruto video. This one is going to be for volume 20 of the manga, which is called Pursuit. And here is our 3-in-1 kind of cover page type thing for volume 20. Pretty nice kind of chibi, kind of more basic version of Naruto, but interesting, always interesting how they approach doing some of this stuff. But yeah, we cover another. Oh wait, this is actually a 10. This is actually a 10 chapter volume here. We cover 181 to 190. The battle begins. Assemble. The promise. Sound versus Leaf. Pursuit. Failure. The plea. The shinobi of Konohagakure, or the Leaf Village. Faith and unforgivable. I think overall this is a very solid volume. I really like the opening chapter as Sasuke leaves the village, and some of the initial stuff that happens after that. Shikamaru talking to Tsunade, and then the formation of the obviously pursuit team led by Shikamaru, and obviously Naruto's promise to Sakura becomes really important as we go into this kind of next part of the series, and then the little bit with Sasuke and him like making the decision to really heavily commit to becoming gaining this power, using the cursed seal, the curse mark to obviously get the second stage and become extremely powerful, and just committing to that despite all of the risks and stuff he's leaving behind. I think it slows down a little bit once they actually leave the village, because it takes a little bit for them to get going. Then they go over to like Shizune, and they have a little battle with Genma and Raido, two Jonin from the Leaf Village, fight the Sound Ninja 4, and they're running off. It just slows down a little bit there, just prior to the actual fight starting between Shikamaru's team and the Sound Ninja 4. But we end strong with basically most of, if not all, with the Jirobo versus Choji fight, which is the first one-on-one fight we get. But there's a few other little things that happen just prior to that, all the time setting up Shikamaru as a leader. But let's get into some specifics here. As I said, for me, the stuff with Sakura actually in these two volumes is probably some of my favorite stuff from this volume. Just showing you how much she cares for Sasuke. It happens really quickly. Like, we just jump into the first chapter of this volume, and immediately Sasuke's looking at the picture in his room of obviously him and his squad mates, and you can see he is having these doubts, but he still decides to leave. And I think it's one of those big moments when he goes to leave the village and she's there waiting for him. She even more so than Naruto has seen the moments when he's kind of been tempted. She's seen what's tempted him to overthrow Orochimaru's side, so she's aware that he's in danger of doing this, even though she's kind of lied to Naruto and told him that Sasuke won't leave the village, it's not that bad and stuff like that. But she's been keeping watch because she has doubted him. And you get this whole idea that she cares for him so much, but he gives her nothing back. And she just gets really upset, and I really like what happens here, and that she just says, why don't you ever tell me anything? Why do you have to be silent? Why can't you just let me in? And he does the whole thing, like, my business is none of yours, leave me alone. And we get this flashback to, obviously, the big initial first moment where Sakura's kind of talking very harshly about Naruto, and that like, it's the way he grew up. That's the reason he is the way he is. This is very early stuff. And then Sasuke, like, kind of out of nowhere, kind of defends Naruto and just kind of really kind of cuts Sakura off, and it's just like, no, like, I understand what it is to be lonely, and you don't. Like, there's a key difference showing that Sasuke really gets Naruto, Naruto gets Sasuke, but Sakura, at least at that early point of the series, didn't quite get it, but now she does. And the point that she gets across in relation to that is that when the team came together, it was such a fun time for them all. And I think even for Sasuke, it is a big thing in that even he had doubt. He was all about revenge initially. That was the thing he said to Kakashi. But being part of the team nearly convinced him to kind of turn against it, but not quite enough. And I like that what she says here is that even after Sasuke says, "I can never be like you or Naruto. I'm different. I'm on a different path than you." She says, like, so that's it. You're choosing the lonely path. Remember how you showed me what it means to be lonely? Well, now I understand. It's painfully clear to me. I have family and friends, but Sasuke, if I lose you, I'll be very lonely. And that's the one moment where it hits Sasuke. You get a little shot of just him with the dot 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 expression, and as he kind of remembers his friends, that him leaving is a challenge for him. As much as he's making it out like it's not really a big issue, him leaving is a big decision that he's not really making super suddenly. He's just decided that this power is something that he absolutely needs. And he just says, we're all leaving on a different path. And it's at this point she just flat out reveals, I'm so in love with you that I can't even stand it. And it is a big moment because she's so desperate at this point in time that she's kind of saying, like, you are aware that she honestly feels that way, but for her, like, you almost get the impression that she's kind of saying, like, is that the problem? Like, is the reason that you're not staying here because your family is gone, and as much as you have these friends, you don't have family of your own. You don't have people who love you, but I do. And she's kind of hoping that her just saying, like, I will do anything for you. I will commit myself entirely to you. That he will stay because now there was someone just as close to him. But and she even goes as far as to say, I'll even help you take revenge. I'll manage it somehow. So, like, she's willing to kind of go against her own kind of beliefs, morals, and stuff like that, and kind of walk down that path with Sasuke as well, just to be with him. But he obviously isn't having any of it. He just says, "You will never change," and she goes to basically scream to call everyone else for help, but he just kind of appears behind her, genjutsu, and knocks her out, but not before saying thank you to her and leaving the village after, placing her on the bench. So the fact that he didn't just leave her there on the street, that he did, place her on the bench, I suppose, afterwards, even though we don't see a panel of him actually just putting her there, it's clear to some extent that he placed her there. And just him saying thank you, I think, is a pretty big moment in that he I suppose is thanking her for caring. That when he's leaving the village, he's aware that he's kind of betraying everyone's trust, but for him, the importance of the power goes beyond everything else. But he is kind of like, saying thank you for caring enough and showing me that there at least is something here for me. And I suppose for him, he's hoping that he can just go out, get the power, get revenge, and then things can perhaps go back to normal, unaware of how, as Kakashi said in the last volume, as Sakura says here in this scene, him getting revenge isn't going to help anyone. No one's going to be happier because of the revenge he takes. It's just going to further put him down the path of, hatred, that he is basically going over to the villain side of things now, and he's not going to be able to come back from that he's committed himself to that. And you definitely get the sense he perhaps hasn't thought everything through exactly, but he's so committed to his revenge against Itachi that that's all that drives him. And even Sakura, like, confessing her love to him isn't enough. Even the friendship of Naruto, having Kakashi there to support him, it's not enough for him, that he has to leave and do this. And given that this is ultimately, like, one of the biggest kind of moments in the series, Sasuke leaving the village, and ultimately how that almost defines Naruto and Sakura as characters going forward, like what they want to do. Even Kakashi to a certain extent, that, like, this event tears Team 7 apart, basically, in that for basically all of the rest of part one, they're not really together as a team. They only come back together after the 3 year time skip, and obviously under very different circumstances. And obviously the team lineup changes as you go through Shippuden, the part two stuff. But this, like, him leaving here is the end of Team Seven for a while, and even Naruto and Sakura go their separate ways to train while this is happening. So it is huge how big this moment is. But yeah, some of the Jonin find Sakura, obviously, and this is how eventually gets to Tsunade that Sasuke has left the village, and how she is completely aware, based on what Orochimaru now said to her at the end of their last meeting, that okay, he's obviously put some thoughts into Sasuke's mind. He is convincing him to go over to his side of things, and Sasuke is clearly what he wants to do with in terms of getting his actual body back, and this isn't good for the village. Full stop. But yeah, so at this point, Shikamaru starts to introduce into things. We get a little family scene of him. We get to see his mother, I think, for the first time, and again, they continue to talk about like Shikamaru, like wow, like whatever made you like our mother, like my mother, she's really harsh, and his father just talks about, no, there are moments when she even she smiles gently, and that's kind of what I like. But yeah, Tsunade just calls him over and says, we need immediate action against this. The only person I can send out is you. And Shikamaru's just like, okay, cool, I'll lead the squad, but I'm going to need like 2 Jonin and some other people. And she's like, no, the only people you can get are really quickly organize as many Genin as possible. Genin are the only people I'm going to give to you, because everyone else is out in the village and on other things, because the village is still obviously in chaos after the events of the Orochimaru attack, the sound and the sand versus the leaf. So all the major people who are on missions are doing missions just to keep the village running. And so immediately, Tsunade recommends, get Naruto involved, so he gets him, and then the rest of the squad kind of, they fill in as we go along. Choji's brought on board, and everyone's like, why are you bringing Choji along? Naruto especially has the reaction of just like, really? He was like the worst during the Chunin exams. Why can't we bring Shino? Even Naruto says that, but he's not here right now, so they get Kiba on board, and then Rock Lee recommends they get Neji on board. And that's a nice moment, just that Rock Lee is the one to recommend Neji, and he kind of just accepts that he's going to be out of action for now, and that he has another battle to fight in terms of getting his operation. But he's fine with recommending Neji for this mission to get Sasuke back, because I think even Lee at this point is aware of how much Sakura cares about Sasuke. But yeah, the team comes together. We get a pretty cool double page spread of just our team, the 5 guys together, are just about to go out on their mission. Pretty cool. They're all kind of closer now. They're not so combative with each other as they were during the tuning exams, and so on. Like, Neji is now not the guy he was before, so he's a much more kind of friendlier character, though they still keep him fairly serious about things. And then after that, we very quickly, Shikamaru explains in detail the exact order, their formation, and it's pretty cool. Just like Neji's out in front, Neji's on the back, for with Byakugan scouting. Kiba's up front, obviously with his smell, that he's the best person to do that. And then he just quickly explains the guys in the middle. It's pretty basic, to the point. Ultimately the formation falls apart fairly quickly, in that as much as Shikamaru has things planned out, he fundamentally can't plan out how exactly the battles are going to play out in terms of their power levels against each other. But yeah, just as they're about to leave, Sakura arrives. And then this is probably another one of my favourite scenes, in that they're aware that, like, okay, Sakura was the one who last saw Sasuke before he left the village, and she just comes up, again, the emotion comes out, she starts to cry, and immediately just goes to Naruto, and she just says, Naruto, this is my wish of a lifetime. Please bring Sasuke back. And he's kind of like, wow, I can't believe she's asking me this. And she's just like, no, I will do this. And he says, I know what you're going through now. I know it all too well. And obviously he flashes back to him transformed into Sasuke asking for Sakura's opinions on Naruto. So he heard what she initially thought of him at the start, and he's aware that, okay, he's being more aware of her feelings, and this is the thing he really wants to do for her. And in the last volume, we obviously saw when he brought Tsunade back and she healed Sasuke to wake him up, he immediately left the room because he could see that this was a kind of moment between Sakura and Sasuke that he had to leave for, and this is just another thing showing that he's putting kind of the others before himself, and that he still at this point kind of likes Sakura, but is kind of aware that it's probably never going to happen because she cares so much for Sasuke, but he's still obviously willing to help her because he cares about both of them in kind of obviously different ways. And it's just this moment of just Sakura and Lee are both kind of left in the village for kind of different reasons, because Sakura's, I suppose, too emotionally invested in this to go, and in terms of her skill level, she's not suited to this type of mission. And then Lee probably would have went, but he's injured at this point in time, and he has a lot of other stuff to do. And we do get a quick scene later on with Lee and Tsunade, just her confirming, like, you definitely want the surgery. You don't have to do this. And she just asks him, like, why are you so set on doing this? And Lee answers, because it's my dream to prove that even who I am, the guy who can't use ninjutsu or genjutsu, only taijutsu, that I can be a splendid shinobi. And for Tsunade, it's the whole idea of seeing the younger generation dream, and that's kind of what drives her to kind of be the fifth Hokage. And this is what really highlights to her how good of a job her master, Saritobi, did as the third Hokage, in terms of allowing all of the young generation of the Leaf to dream, have their own goals, and strive towards them with such an intense, will of fire. But yeah, the other real important moment before we have, I think a lot of the stuff is kind of worth just skipping over, is just we get how Sasuke is going to move on from the first stage of the curse mark to the second one. They set up this whole thing about you must die just this once, and then they have this really long explanation about how, like, you have to do this, and this, you have to die, but wait, we're actually going to use the barrier jutsu, so you don't die, so you don't actually die. It's like, okay, I get you want a cliffhanger moment for Sasuke where you have to die to do this, but for him it's just like, okay, this power, risk dying to potentially get this really intense power, okay, and the only thing is just like, can I really trust you guys to use that barrier jutsu at the right moment? And eventually he agrees to it, and he's sealed in this coffin. He's given these kind of pills to swallow to activate the second stage, and they're going to use the barrier to kind of slow down the progress of the second stage of the seal, so it doesn't immediately kill him. So it's going to, like, be torturous on his body, but he will slowly get it and obviously develop the second seal. So this is kind of Sasuke's big power coming into play here. After that, that's where we get the whole thing with Genma, Raido, and Shizune's squad. The Sound Ninja 4, we don't see them fight fully. They have to use their second state, which we haven't seen just yet. And they do manage to defeat the two Jonin in Genma and Raido. But we later return to them exhausted, the Sound Ninja 4. So they had to push themselves to take out two Jonin. And that's I think that's really telling, in that basically the Sound Ninja 4 are like pretty high level Chunin level combatants, especially when they use their second seal, second stage of their curse mark. So so four of them taking out two Jonin makes sense that it would challenge them greatly. So it makes it all the more kind of, I suppose, interesting that these really high level opponents are going up against one Chunin in Shikamaru, and then the rest of them are Genin. But obviously, characters like Naruto placed much higher in the tournament than other characters, so they just weren't given the rank of Chunin, more because of leadership reasons rather than power level reasons. But yeah, after that, it's just a lot of kind of almost kind of time wasting as they kind of catch up to them. Then we get the moment where the ambush happens. They're sealed in the rock prison, and it is a pretty cool little solution that comes out, and that they start to argue with each other. Everyone's kind of doubting each other. This is where you see the fact that the team has never been together, working against them. But Shikamaru pretty quickly figures it out that, okay, if we damage the interior of this thing, it keeps healing itself. The places that are the slowest to heal are the places we should ultimately focus our attacks on. And using Neji's Byakugan, they discovered that, okay, this specific one section here, this is where we need to break out. Choji uses the human boulder technique. They break out, and immediately after that, basically, he's just like, okay, this guy, I'm fighting him. And this is Choji's chance to prove himself to Shikamaru primarily, and kind of showcase, why, I suppose, why Shikamaru has stood up for Choji so much up to now. But also, I think just for himself, prove to himself that he can do this, and he's not the weakest of the group. That's the story that they tell for the last couple of chapters of this volume, that Choji, by basically everyone, is considered the weakest. For a variety of reasons, his poor performance in the tuning exams, getting defeated very quickly by Josu and stuff like that, and then also just his personality. He's considered more of a kind of sweet and kind of caring character, more so than the really high level fighters. But Shikamaru has faith that Choji can do this, and we basically get into the fight that they're going to go off on its own. Shikamaru's going to hold on, Choji's going to hold off one of them, Jirobo, while the others go off. And you see the idea for what's happening here in that Shikamaru has all this stuff planned out, but fundamentally the only way this really quickly thrown together team is going to approach anything is to go to one-on-one fights, because they have better numbers than them. So if it eventually gets into 4 one-on-one fights, at least one of them can go off in pursuit of Sasuke and get Sasuke back. And that's kind of what it comes down to eventually. Just this, that they, this idea that they weren't quite ready for this mission, that they're facing people a bit too high above their level, and obviously things change once Kimimaru is introduced and so on. But the big thing with the Choji fight is obviously the Akimichi, triple threat food pills, the green one, yellow one, red one, the really dangerous food pills that give insane chakra and extra power, but have a side effect on the body. And just the various stages of this fight, that Choji's pretty strong initially, and then, it's basically that, like, he uses the first pill, gets a hit in on Jirobo counters that, he uses the second pill, gets a hit in on Jirobo, counter, and then eventually comes down to the last bit, and obviously the last one is basically that if I eat this, I will die. And I think even Shikamaru is aware of this, and he's hoping Choji can finish the fight before it comes to that. But he is forced by Jirobo's second seal state, which is really interesting in that it goes from just being this kind of almost tattoo-like marking on the body to basically turning him into more of a kind of monstrous type character. So it kind of sets up that, oh wow, is Sasuke going to get like a monstrous type transformation when he's done with this? And Choji, to counter this, eats the final food pill, and suddenly these huge chakra wings like sprout out of him. It's really incredible. It's a really great moment, like for a character who you have not thought really anything of in fighting up to now. It's such an awesome moment where he does this. Jirobo comes in with a really powerful punch, and Choji's just like, chakra to my hand, and just blocks it amazingly. Throws him away, and then delivers this devastating punch. I do question the art approach to this. I get the shaky, like, insane impact effect that they're going for, with the double lining on it to kind of give it that extreme sense of impact. But I think it's just a little bit overly busy, and I would have preferred it if it just was just the standard image. It's always one of those things where, like, you appreciate the artist trying to do something a little bit different to get across how intense this moment is, but I think just a really clear art panel of that devastating blow would have worked better, because there's so much going on here with the speed lines and the impact lines that it's almost hard to keep an eye on, like, where's Choji's head in all of this? Like, where's his arm? Like the rope on Jirobo gets mixed up with everything, and like the Choji's chakra wings get mixed up with the rocks, and everything has double lining because of the impact. It's just, to me, it's a little bit of a messy panel for like the big final blow of this fight. It's probably the one, I suppose, art criticism I've really had over the run of Naruto up to now. is just little moments like this where it's like the big moment. You got to get this right, and he just does something a little bit different, and it doesn't quite work. This is, for me, just the problem with this panel is that it's a little hard to interpret what's going on, and that um, it's meant to be a really powerful punch, but it's just not shown in the best way. And I think the animation comes across a little bit better for this specific scene. But yeah, I suppose final thoughts on this volume are, as I said, love the Sakura moments, getting across the emotion from her, and that she's at the point now where she really can't do anything. She has to rely on Naruto to kind of try and get Sasuke back. And um, obviously, while they're away, we're gonna get some focus on Sakura and her potentially deciding that, like, I have to find my speciality. Right now, I'm just a you know slightly above average ninja who doesn't have any sort of speciality like everyone else. I'm gonna have to find that myself, to find some way to be useful, if not just to support Naruto, but also to try and be just honestly useful myself, and be able to potentially go and get Sasuke back myself. Like, that's gonna be Sakura's driving thing from here on out. That, like, at this point in time, like, a lot of people basically say as Sakura as a character is useless, but I think useless is a bit overly harsh, but the fact is, like, she is a character right now feels that way about herself, when I think it is her very harshly judging herself. And I think her arc is more about her finding her speciality, and, like, Tsunade obviously being back in the village, she is the only one of the main characters right now who hasn't found her, I suppose, specific, mentor. Jiraiya for Naruto, Orochimaru clearly being set up for Sasuke. Tsunade, it makes sense that to some extent there's going to be a connection there at some point. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the manga approaches, the cutting back to Sakura in the village, cutting back to obviously Lee and getting the operation while everyone's away, while these fights to the death are basically happening as we barrel our way towards the very end of the series, more or less. Um, but yeah, that's basically been the volume. I think I made a mistake at the start. I think I said this was volume 20. It's actually volume 21. Completely just misspoke there. But yeah, that has been the volume review. So next one, maybe I'll be able to get another one out later this week. Not exactly sure my video schedule once again. But yeah, in the comments let me know what your thoughts were on this volume and this review. Other than that, thanks for watching, and bye.